Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure and an honor to introduce Jabra PanaCast in Korea today. My name is Javed Tufel. I handle international sales and business development with Altia Systems in the past, and now with Jabra GN Audio. And then I'll take you through our journey, a little bit about our technical information about how we build the PanaCast camera, what's involved, what are the use cases that the Jabra PanaCast can be used in, and the capabilities and feature functionality of the Jabra PanaCast. I'll talk about Altia Systems first to give you a context of what we set about when we first started building the panoramic cameras. Altia Systems was a startup. We started that company back in 2012. I joined the company in 2014, end of 2014-15. But the main idea about building the panoramic cameras was to bring that immersive collaboration experience into the modern day communication. And I think as you saw, and my Korean is non-existent, but I saw in Ken's presentation, 92% of communication is all about body language, how you see. And if you do not see your remote party that you're interacting with, your communication kind of lacks that immersive experience. So when we first started the company back in 2012, it was started off through some private investors, and our first camera that we built was a panoramic camera, which was a PanaCast I. That was an IP connected camera. That means you had to plug in an Ethernet cable to the camera. The camera would send the video out into the cloud, and there was our PanaCast video server in the cloud, and the camera would send the video to that server. And if you could grab that video from that cloud, either using your phone or your computer. But in any IP connected device, whenever you take that IP connected device into an enterprise organization, there are always questions that are asked by the security teams. What protocol is it going to use? How much is it going to affect my network? How much is it going to affect the bandwidth, et cetera, et cetera. So those were friction points. So we did a pivot. We created PanaCast II at the start of 2015. And we removed all those friction points, and we created a truly USB plug-and-play camera. That meant that the camera is just connected with the USB. Don't have to worry about opening any security. We found great success with PanaCast II camera. Uber, Facebook, NetApp, NASDAQ. A lot of these customers came on and they accepted, they adopted the PanaCast II camera. And that led us to build the next generation camera, which was a PanaCast III, or now we are calling it the Jabra PanaCast camera. I think Ken mentioned that in his talk also. GN Audio has created the best solutions for huddle room space. Best speaker, external mic and speaker is the Jabra 710, which is a class in its own. PanaCast, we build this multi-camera system which gives you 100% video coverage if mounted on one of the walls in a room. Again, it has much more intelligence built into it. I hate to call it, it's not a webcam, it's a very intelligent camera system. But bringing these two together, now we have a complete solution. Jabra has a complete solution, not from audio, but from video as well, that we can take to our end customers and partners and offer this unique solutions. As I mentioned, in the past, when we created the PanaCast II camera, we were able to find great success with that. We were a small company, 25 people company, which was funded by Intel Capital, and we eventually became an Intel portfolio company because they came in as a Series B investors. And an Intel portfolio company was able to sell to over 1,600 customers in 38 plus countries. So, not our customer profile included, as I mentioned, Uber, enterprise customers like Facebook, NetApp, NASDAQ, but also we found great success with the institutions of higher learning, universities. 200 plus universities are using PanaCast camera, which include universities like Yale, Georgetown University, Western Sydney University, University of Auckland, New Zealand. They're not using the PanaCast camera. I just want to set the context correctly. They're not using the camera for lecture captures because lecture halls are much wider and much bigger spaces. But you know, in a university environment, it is campuses that are spread across a large area. There are collaboration that happens between different student groups. And for those collaboration rooms, these universities are using the PanaCast camera so that students can collaborate with each other and you know, work better with their projects. Introducing the Jabra PanaCast camera. It is 3 cameras mounted on the optical head. They all work together. The way we make them work together is we take real-time video from all 3 cameras, we synchronize them, we feed that real-time video into our PanaCast vision processor. So each of these cameras that are mounted on these optical head is 13.3 megapixel camera that delivers that video to that PanaCast vision processor. So we're actually pushing about 40 megapixels of raw video into our onboard processors. It runs the 300 megapixels per second processing. It synchronizes, stitches that image together, and then delivers a 3840 by 1080p video. There's also intelligence built into the camera. Means we have the capability in our algorithms to detect facial markers. And that helps us to identify, not identify, but detect how many people are sitting in that field of view. That is, you know, that in turn provides you the data and analytics capability from the PanaCast camera. As you can see in the video, as you saw that, it's just one cable that connects the camera. It's truly plug and play. It's USB. So any UC service, any service that can accept a USB camera would be able to utilize the PanaCast camera as well. But this is a little bit of under the hoods for the PanaCast camera. As I mentioned, we have these 3 different cameras. We take the synchronized stitching from, we take the real-time video from each of these cameras, and we process it on our PanaCast vision processor. There's about like 25% of overlap between the 2 regions because the cameras are mounted at a small angle with each other. So there is a little bit of overlap. Within that overlap is where we perform our dynamic seam stitching. When I say dynamic seam stitching, it is, you know, it is the algorithms that are deciding whether we are going to pick a pixel from the left camera or the right camera. And I'll demo this to you in a second. Obviously, whenever you're doing the stitching, whenever you're performing the stitching, there are some stitching artifacts that you will see. Those stitching artifacts are what you see at the parallax distance. Parallax distance in small terms is explained as the errors that you see when you're viewing an object from 2 different angles. So if you place your finger right in front of your eyes and you close one eye, you see that finger placed at one spot. And then when you open one eye and you close your right eye and then look at that, you would see the finger move, or that object would move a few distance from left to right. So that kind of those parallax errors that come into play. And when we perform our stitching artifacts, you would see those stitching artifacts when you get very, very close to that, to the camera. Obviously, the closer these cameras are to each other, the lesser the distance is where you would see our stitching artifacts. The farther these are, the farther these are, you would be able to see stitching artifacts at quite a bit distance. So it is better to have these very close to each other so that you do not see the stitching artifact. So let me show you how the 3 cameras show up in This is PanaCast camera is showing in the one that I have over here. which is on this dais over here. As you can see, it captures pretty much everything in the room, and I can go and see if I can show you the three. So this is let it the lighting conditions happen, right? So this is how you would see these three different cameras capturing raw video from all three different angles. And as you can see, actually this lighting in this room is fairly good, fairly uniform. So you see the lighting is pretty much uniform in this case. Normally when I do this demo in another environment where there's more light from for one camera versus less light for another, you would see a lot of lighting difference. Our stitching pipeline is ultra fast. Within 5 to 7 milliseconds, it would synchronize and stitch that image together. In other cameras, you may have seen in the past there are people who put together GoPros, 5, 6, 8 GoPros together, and then they capture some outdoors video. It takes them almost 90 minutes for that video to stitch together so that they can have one uniform video. In our case, we do that within 5 to 7 milliseconds. So if I go back and just run it back into our algorithms, you would see it immediately stitches that and lays out a full 180-degree field of view, right? It is a very difficult problem to solve, to stitch an image in a confined space. You may have seen other consumer products which have multi-cameras on the optical head, but they're all designed for outdoors consumption. There's nothing for confined space. The main reason for that is how do you eliminate the stitching artifact? So if I take my hand really, really close to the camera, you will see the stitching lines, right? That's where and I really have to be very, very close for you to see that. Once I remove my hand, you do not see that. And so with three cameras capturing the video and intelligence built into, we are able to deliver that full view of the room, and that's where we are able to deliver a very real-time immersive video experience to the end users. Not only that, because we have the capability to detect the people, the facial markers of human face, we're able to provide you data analytics as well. The camera also has dual microphones, so on two edges. So it provides you full 100% video of the coverage of the room. It has a full audio coverage as well as from microphone perspective. And as I mentioned, the data analytics capability also provides you the data statistics that you can get. The camera delivers that once we take that real-time image, 3840 by 1080p, we synchronize it, we stitch that image, and we project it on a virtual cylinder. That's where we apply geometric corrections, and then we deliver that image via one USB-C interface. The camera is is compatible with USB 2.0, with USB 3.1, and USB-C interfaces. So all of those interfaces are compatible. The other thing is we start off with a resolution of 3840 by 1080p, panoramic 4K resolution that the camera natively delivers, and you can scale it down all the way to 760, 720 as well. The end result is a very natural perspective, human perspective way of looking at the remote party. So the idea behind the PanaCast cameras or panoramic cameras was we wanted to be a seat at the table. You may have seen other collaboration cameras which are either mechanical pan, tilt, and zoom, which you can go either left of the room and your right side is missing, or you can go to the right side of the room and left side is missing. Or you may have seen the other cameras which are 360 degrees, which you place it in the middle of the room, but it gives a very disoriented look because we don't have eyes behind our, we don't have eyes on at the back of our heads, right? So we are, as human beings, have a peripheral vision of about 200 degrees. And when we sit, when we communicate and collaborate with other people, we're looking forward. And so in this slide, what I want you to take away from is there's no scalar or radial distortion. People who are on the edges are the same size as people in the middle and on the other side. Also, there is no loss of resolution. So compare that to other cameras which are trying to capture the wide field of view. Some of our competitors are claiming 150, although it is diagonal, and the horizontal field of view is only 120. When you look at those videos, and I have a slide which will show you a comparison of that, you would see a lot of scalar radial distortion get introduced when you're stretching laws of physics from a single traditional camera and trying to capture wide field of view. The other ways to capture wide field of view or the entire room is through fisheye lens, which, as you know, the center part could be would have the higher resolution, but it drops off considerably when you go towards the edges, and there's a lot of scalar radial distortion that gets introduced. So from that perspective, PanaCast gives you the full 180 degree field of view, no loss of resolution, and no scalar radial distortion as well. More and more, we see open seating environments at enterprise organizations, right? But with that open seating, the idea is to have more interaction between your employees and more productivity, but it also has a negative effect of you're not able to concentrate on the work that you want to concentrate on, right, or work on. I sit in Cupertino, and we have an open seating, and before Jabra came on, I was a part of everybody's conversation. So people standing right next to my desk are having a conversation, I get pulled into that. There was no way for me to isolate myself and concentrate. In similar, all enterprise organizations go through this, or employees who are sitting in an open space go through that same problem. And that was the pain point that was solved by enterprise-grade audio headset solutions that Jabra introduced to create concentration zones, to create some sort of an isolation for a person sitting in an open space who wants to concentrate. So that was a real pain problem, which was solved by the enterprise-grade headsets that Jabra has introduced with Evolve. And similar problem exists in huddle room space. Majority of the rooms are becoming more and more huddle room spaces are where the collaboration happens. Because of the open seating, the need to have meetings has increased more. But the pain problem the pain point that got introduced with huddle room space is the traditional single lens camera. A traditional single lens camera has not changed in years, decades. It's the same single lens camera which can give you about 60, maybe 90 degree field of view, and if you're stretching the laws of physics, you can get it up to about 120 degrees with with scalar radial distortions introduced in that. So how do we solve that problem is where the Jabra PanaCast comes into play. Even a smaller huddle room space, which is 4 by 6 feet or 6 by 8 feet, you can have the PanaCast camera, which gives you full coverage. We have a lot of customers. I used to work at Cisco. I worked at Cisco for 13 years. They had like a lot of huddle room spaces, which are kind of like called phone booth spaces, which has just one monitor, 2 chairs for your quick collaboration. But if you place a single camera over there, it's still 2-3 people are not captured by that. So with the PanaCast camera, you solve that problem, and you have a huddle room which is much more collaborative, where you can obtain some data as well from the huddle room space. We talk about the trend of how we're moving towards more and more huddle room spaces. I attend a lot of trade shows. I've been to ISC, Microsoft Ignite, Infocom, Enterprise Connect, all of that. And in my conversations with enterprise customers, majority of them are moving towards doing away with spending a lot of money on high-end conference rooms and democratizing video conferencing by enabling their huddle room space with a video camera, an external mic and speaker, and a display monitor. The trend has increased a lot because of availability of UC services. Now that you've seen the growth and explosion of Zoom as a collaboration service, Microsoft Teams is growing as well. So do we have Cisco WebEx and WebEx Teams as well. So with these UC services that are available, it's much easier to collaborate using plug-and-play devices, peripheral devices. And I think, as you can see from smaller percentage of walled garden, what we call walled garden are Polycom and Cisco. They produce really good products, but if you invest in Poly, or if you invest in Cisco System Solutions, you basically are locked into that system, right? So that's what we call walled gardens. But if you have a devices or solution which is agnostic to whatever UC service you're using, whatever infrastructure you may have, that allows you the flexibility to move from one UC service to another UC service without losing the investment that you've already made with your hardware. As you can see, we provide the full coverage of 180-degree field of view in a smaller huddle room space. When you introduce the PanaCast camera, it is when you have a single lens legacy camera in a small room configuration as this, you will see there are about like 2 people who are not included in the conference room, and that's again going back to the point where if you're not able to see, if you're not able to connect to the people that you're talking to, you're not able to have an immersive conversation. So in a scenario like this, if I'm having a conversation, if I'm having a meeting with my remote end, and the person that is the real influencer or the decision who's going to influence on the decision is sitting over here and is just looking over their phone or just on their email, not paying much attention, but I have no idea because that person is not visible to me. And I completely come out from that meeting with a false impression that my meeting went really well. Whereas if I have a coverage which tells me everybody that is inclusive, then I have a much better idea of how my meeting has progressed, whether it was useful or I need to pay more attention, or how people were reacting to the news that I was delivering or the discussion that we were having. So a lot of space that gets wasted because you don't have full coverage. That's wasted space. In a real estate in a commercial real estate speak, it still has probably very expensive real estate. When you do not have a full coverage of your entire huddle room space, you're basically wasting that space. Same thing goes with your offices in San Francisco or New York or London. Again, that space needs to be utilized efficiently, and if you don't have the proper solution put in place, you're ending up wasting the space. Then the second part, connecting with the people at the remote end. If you're not connected, if you're not seeing them, it is not a productive meeting. This just further enhances the same point. As you can see, with the PanaCast camera, you get the full coverage. Everybody is included, whereas with any traditional camera or like the other 120-degree field of view, you're still missing people who are not able to be seen by the remote side. And that goes back to how much space you're wasted, how much space you can utilize when you use the proper solution of Jabra PanaCast. In a 72 degree camera, you have to push the camera so far back to include everybody. With 120, you still end up losing a lot of space. But with the PanaCast camera, you can gain a lot more, and you can utilize this space to build more huddle rooms in your environment. So it is very, very useful and powerful from that perspective. So this is the field of view, what we see from our slide. We provide, actually the PanaCast, Jabra PanaCast provides you 185 degree field of view, but we are humble people, so we'll stay 180 degrees field of view. So as you can see, to my earlier point, fairly normal looking people, the same size from one end to another and same resolution. Compare that to our competitors, where the video and the camera is placed at the same exact spot where Jabra PanaCast is, and you see the people in the center feels like they've been pulled back. This person seems to have a bigger right arm than the left arm. Then the scalar radial distortion get introduced in when you try to push the laws of physics and optics to widen your field of view. Also, you'd see these lines going pretty in sideways as well. I'll talk about intelligent zoom. Intelligent zoom is a Jabra PanaCast feature which allows the camera to detect the people and adjust the field of view accordingly. So there are two parts to that. The algorithms within the PanaCast camera have the capability to detect facial markers. I say detect. There are two different things, detection and recognition. So detection, we do detection. Obviously, recognition is recognizing the person, and it goes into the privacy issues and GDPR and all those privacy laws. So we were able to detect people. We had the capability to detect people, recognize people, but we stopped doing that because of the privacy laws, so we focused on detection. By detection, what we mean is we are able to detect the number of people who are sitting in that 180 degree field of view and provide you that count, also the location vertices where they are sitting. And it can work all the way up to 12 feet. So if you're about 12 feet or let's say 3 meters from the camera's algorithm would be able to detect that is a human face and would count as a human face. In this example, Priya is sitting there by herself. There's nothing on the left or right of her. So the camera detects that that's a single person sitting there by herself. And within 5-6 seconds, it detects there's nobody else joining her, so it would just zoom in on her alone, right? As soon as Jesse and Alex join her in the meeting, the camera automatically detects that 2 new faces or 2 new human forms have come in, and would automatically pull back and adjust the field of view. That is called intelligent zoom. We introduced that intelligent zoom back in 2017, 1 month before Cisco did that. And now the industry term is called intelligent framing, or auto framing actually. But it is, our terminology was intelligent zoom. Then the next portion, and this is a capability that is built into the camera itself. So you have, if you want to enable this, you can through Jabra Direct, which recognizes Jabra PanaCast camera. So you can go ahead and enable that. If you don't want the intelligent zoom to work, you can go in and disable that functionality through Jabra Direct, and it would just maintain the 180 degree field of view always, right? So this is a built-in feature. Now, I'll come back to this whiteboard. I'll talk more about another built-in feature is the HDR functionality. HDR functionality is high dynamic range. We call it vivid HDR functionality. Whenever a light source, there's a lot of light coming from one light source, it has the tendency to show up as a blowout if you do not have high dynamic range enabled in your device. So with our high dynamic range, when you see that blowout kind of a condition, we filter each and every pixel, and after filtration, you're able to see the the edges of the room, of the window, or from where the light source is coming. Again, this is a built-in feature. It can be enabled or disabled through Jabra Direct also. In the past, we used to charge these as license features, but these are all part of Jabra PanaCast, so there are no licenses, nothing. It's all available, included in the PanaCast, in the Jabra PanaCast. One feature I want to talk about is the PanaCast whiteboard feature. So we created a productivity tool. I think it's a real productivity tool. These days it's a very common for, the solutions are trending, are the smart boards. So, Google has Jamboard, Cisco has Spark, Microsoft has Surface Hub, whatnot. But they always, actually, there are smart boards, but you can't put those smart boards in every huddle room. They range anywhere from $8,000, $9,000 to $27,000 for Microsoft Surface. But the easiest solution in the collaboration rooms or huddle room spaces is the whiteboard. And as engineers, it's so easy. And as anybody, it's very easy for me to just get up from my chair, walk over to the whiteboard, and just take a marker and start doing the brainstorming session with my teammates, right? What we have done is we created a small application called PanaCast Vision app, which we are going to port back into the Jabra Direct also. It'll be available in Q4 in Jabra Direct. But for now, it's a PanaCast Vision app, and I'll demo that to you also later on. But with that PanaCast Vision app on, the camera, when connected and when the application is launched, the Vision app actually takes the video from the camera. It detects this marker, which is concentric squares marker. Once it detects that concentric squares marker and you've clicked on to launch the PanaCast whiteboard, it would extract the region of the whiteboard and present it as a shareable content. So what it does is it's looking for that concentric square. It would once it has located that, it may take about 20 to 25 seconds based on the complexity of the room. But once it detects that, then it demarcates the corners of the whiteboard, extracts that whiteboard, orthogonally correct it so that the keystone formation is corrected, and then present it as a shareable content. When I say present it as a shareable content, means it becomes available to you to share it with your remote attendees, just like you share your PowerPoint presentation, you share your Excel, you share your Word. That's how this form is available. So if you're in your conference, you want to share your whiteboard, you just go on to, whether you're in Teams or you're in Zoom, you go share an application, and you will see PanaCast whiteboard. You click on that one, and it would start sharing this as your whiteboard. But
that is bundled with the camera, right?
It is available free. You can download it, so there's no charge to it. So it's available from our website. You can download it. It will become a part of Jabra Direct in Q4. What we have actually done is, with this one, we can change the persona of that whiteboard to a live video. So, and you may ask this question, why do you want to change that whiteboard into a live video? The reason being, when you change the persona of that shareable content to live video, you then remove or vacate that spot for presentation. So what it allows you to do is, it allows you to bring your PowerPoint presentation as a presentation and your video as your live whiteboard. So you have both on your fingertips. You can go back and forth between presentation and whiteboard. And I don't know if you want to explain that to again, but so you can have both at the same time. And there is no other application that allows you to share your whiteboard and presentation at the same time. So that's pretty powerful. 100% video, obviously, because of the 180-degree field of view that we present. 100% audio because of the microphones that we have, which give you full coverage within huddle room space of 6 to 8 people, about 10 feet should be good. And 100% data analytics is because we give full coverage of the room. That means we are able to capture the data fully. And where it comes into play, I will have a demo and some slides as well to show you why the full coverage of the room is important because of data lakes. So the fundamentals, the enhanced experience that we get and the return on investment that we have talked about, how you can utilize the space as well as the data, that's all combines together to add the value of the Jabra PanaCast in your space. Again, we are agnostic to whatever UC service that you want to use. Even though it's a Microsoft certified device, but we're agnostic to other UC services. So there are about 44 plus UC services that are out there, collaboration services that are out there. However, we listed out the more famous ones that usually get used in the enterprise region realm. There's Intel Unite, the Blue Jeans, Zoom, WebEx, Cisco Teams, GoToMeeting, and Google Hangouts and whatnot. So from our perspective, we don't care. And this is a good thing. If today some customer is on Microsoft Teams and then tomorrow they want to move to Zoom, they can easily do that. They don't have to rip out their polys or like other kind of high-end equipment. They can easily move to the new UC service and continue to use the hardware that they've already put in place if it is a Jabra PanaCast devices. We're also compatible to all kinds of hardware operating systems. Jabra PanaCast is supported on Mac OS, on Windows OS, Linux, and Chrome boxes. We are also able to work in a VDI environment. However, VDI environments is a little challenging because there's a lot of customization. And you would come across VDI environments in financial institutions, banks, and some of the financial institutions, virtual desktop environments. But other than that, Mac OS, Windows, Chrome, Linux, all of those are supported platforms for PanaCast. As we talk about intelligent zoom, which is the capability of detecting people's facial markers, and based on that, it can zoom in, zoom out. That's the same thing which we can utilize to provide you the count of the people in the conference room. So that means you can pull the camera through our APIs and SDKs available and get that information or get that metadata from the camera itself. It can provide you how many people, and it depends on how often you pull the camera. You can pull the camera at the start of the meeting, every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes, every half hour, every hour. So you would know how many people were at the start of the meeting, at the middle of the meeting, or at the end of the meeting. Now, the people detection 1.0 is based on the capability of the camera to detect facial markers within the algorithms that are on board of the camera. So for that, you don't need any PC, you just need to write an application to pull the camera, and you can pull that data. That data belongs to you, whether you store it locally or you store it in your cloud, and you use it however you want to use it. Again, there's no storage on the camera. It's real-time data, and the storage would be when you pull the data on your wherever you want to store it. Since it works on the algorithms, onboard algorithms of the PanaCast camera, Jabra PanaCast, that means it has its limitation of working up to 12 feet, and you have to face the camera, or your profile should be visible to the camera. The only challenging environment that can happen is when you are wearing very reflective glasses, or you're supporting a really Texas-style bushy beard that can throw off the camera. But other than that, it should be able to recognize you and provide you the count for that. Now, if you want to go beyond that, and you want to go beyond 12 feet, and you want to go and you want to recognize people even when they're not looking, then we co-developed this functionality with Intel, which is based on CNN, convolutional neural network. It's a mouthful. And it is capable of detecting people as far back as 13 meters, and you can count the number of people into hundreds, right? For that, you need to run a program on a connected PC. The PC has to be i7 8 generation 8, which is capable of doing a processing on that. And I'll demo that to you in a second over here. Let me go back and launch that. So depending on the number of people and how the lighting is, it's trying its best. And as you can see, my face is not towards the camera, and it's still detecting me as a person, and it's counting me as an account. So this is a real-time count that you can grab from that application and then utilize that, how many people at any given time. As I mentioned, there's no storage. It's all real-time data that is being made available to you. A step further, we go to people detection and object detection 2.0. Now, if you are familiar with darknet YOLO libraries, these are libraries of pictures taken of objects and made available to everybody. They're publicly available libraries. So what that means is you can take those libraries that are available publicly, and you can run them against a camera or a video that you have, and you can identify these objects. There are about like 3,000 plus devices that are been identified or that are available in those libraries. So a picture of a mouse taken from, like, let's say 400 different angles is uploaded. A picture for a chair, a table, a bag, things like that, some common objects. So you can run those libraries with any third-party camera. You can run them with the Logitech, or you can run them with any other camera as well. So, and then you can identify the objects. But the reason why it works really well with the PanaCast camera, Jabra PanaCast, is because two main reasons. Number one, there's no scalar radial distortion. So the objects get identified with a very high degree of confidence. That means a bottle is going to be straight as a bottle and would recognize as a bottle. And similarly, so other objects as well. The second main reason is the coverage of the room, right? So if you take a traditional single lens camera, it would capture 1/3 of the room, maybe half the room. So you're not getting the entire data. When you run these libraries with the Jabra PanaCast, you're able to capture that data in its entirety. So two main reasons: you want accurate data and you want 100% data. And for that, you need to run it with the Jabra PanaCast. So let me do a quick demo, and let's see if I can quickly run this.
이 오브젝트 디텍션은 어디에 활용할 수 있을까요? 네. 아까 이제 사람도 디텍션하지만 사물을 디텍션하잖아요. 의자하고 거기 놓여 있는 뭐 PC 이런 것들. 그죠? 회의실에 뭐가 없어졌는지 확인할 수가 있죠. 네. 인벤토리 관리가 가능하고 이제 이런 걸 제공해 주는 게 카메라가 다른 것도 있지만 지금 이제 파나캐스트는 그 특정 사물 아까 바틀이면 바틀, 병이면 병인 거를 확실하게 구분할 수 있다는 게 좀 차이가 있는 거예요.
Yeah, so this is, I'm running those libraries with the Jabra PanaCast that I have, and as you can see, it is detecting the chairs, it's detecting the bottles, yeah, and sometimes it confuses. If you have a bigger phone, it may think that as a monitor, so it's a learning thing, right? And if you create some specific libraries for specific use cases, then you can run the PanaCast camera and have those objects identified properly. As I mentioned, the two most important things are data accuracy and the full coverage, data in its entirety, right? So you may ask, where is this useful for me? So this is still in its infancy. It is starting. It's becoming more and more available. But think of it as use case scenarios as remote asset management or remote facilities audit. So I can, if my camera is powered up, it can always act as a sensor, 24/7 sensor. And you can poll the camera and find out, well, this conference room used to have a clock. Where did that disappear? Or it used to have 6 chairs. Now there are only 4 chairs. Or somebody has taken away the mouse, or the keyboard's missing, the monitor's missing. So those kind of things that can be, those could be potential use cases for such technologies. We have our partners. What they have done is they have taken advantage of the intelligence that we provide and created unique solutions for their end customers. So the people detection is being used by Visibility One, that is providing that people count through their dashboard. So as you can see with Visibility One analytics, people in the room, it can tell you how many people are sitting in the room right now currently, right? One of our partners in Australia, AVT, they actually created a unique solution, calendaring and scheduling solution. I worked Cisco a lot of years and spent a few years at Microsoft as well. Bigger organizations always have a lot of people who have weekly meetings, monthly meetings, project meetings, so on and so forth, right? So what people normally do is they want to make sure that they have the room available when they would have the meeting. So they go on the calendaring and they book their meeting all the way through December 31st, right? And when you want to have a meeting and you want to book a room, you look at the calendar, everything is booked. There's no slot available, right? But when you walk down the hallway and you look left and right, the meeting rooms are empty. People hog the meeting rooms, and they don't utilize them as efficiently as they should. So what that does is, it creates an inefficient use of that meeting room. What we have done, actually, I'm going to run this slide because it's animation over here. Hopefully, you will be able to see some of it. Yeah, so what we have done is we provided that capability to AVT, worked with them, and they created a calendaring and scheduling solution. It's called MezzoCast. What it does is it detects whether through PanaCast camera, it detects whether there are people sitting in the room, and when there are people sitting in the room, it keeps the room busy. If there are no people sitting in the room, it would go ahead and, make that room available for other people to utilize. Similarly, if you have a meeting from 1 to 1:30 and there is no meeting from 1:30 to 2 o'clock, and your conversation happened to run longer and you sit till 1:35, 1:40. This application would automatically put a 15-minute block onto that, provided there's nobody else who would schedule that room, right? So that nobody comes in and kicks you out from the meeting room. And conversely, if your meeting was from 1 to 2 o'clock and your meeting ended at 1:30 and you all walk out from the meeting room, then it won't keep it busy all the way till 2 o'clock. It would make the room available at 1:30, so other people can utilize that room as well. So it's a Mezocast. It's being run in a POC at Technology One. They are going to formally commercialize this, make it available very soon, as in a month or so. But that's you know, it was based on PanaCast 2 cameras, but PanaCast 2 cameras or PanaCast Jabra PanaCast, they share the same DNA, same architecture. So if they deliver that with the PanaCast 2, you can always put in PanaCast 3, Jabra PanaCast, and that solution should still work. PanaCast with an API SDK capability that we have opened up, it allowed our partners to create some controls for PanaCast camera in their solutions. So Zoom is one of our technology partners. Zoom was Gartner's vendor in the quadrant collaboration quadrant for 2014. We were the in the collaboration quadrant for 2015. What Zoom has done is it has enabled some feature functionality to control the PanaCast camera in their Zoom room through the Zoom room controller. When we allowed them to through our APIs and SDKs to control the camera. The Jabra PanaCast is a UVC compliant camera. When we say UVC compliant, it's Universal Video Class commands that it would comply to. Anybody has used far end camera control or familiar with what far end camera control is? So far end camera control, as the name suggests, is if you and I are in a meeting and you want to control my camera, you will have to send a request to me, and I would have to approve that request. Once that request is approved, you gain control of my camera. That means if you send a command from your end to zoom in or zoom out or pan the room, my camera, if it is a UVC compliant camera, should be able to comply with that and do what you're asking it to do. The Jabra PanaCast is a UVC compliant camera. So in a Zoom call, Zoom is the only one which does the far end camera control through the UC application. So if you're in a Zoom call, you make a request and I approve it, you will be able to control my camera. And basically what's happening is, as I mentioned, you're sending the UVC commands and the camera is reacting to the UVC commands that you're sending it. There are also presets available. Normally, if you had to do intelligent zoom, turn it on or off, you would have to go through the Jabra Direct or PanaCast utility to enable those features. But with the Zoom Room controller, you can just control it right at their controller. And you can also define the presets with the Zoom Room controller. What we say the value add for Jabra PanaCast, it's very versatile, it's future-proof, panoramic 4K, it delivers natively 3840 by 1080p resolution, right? Normally the UC applications use no more than 720p or maximum 1080p. So you have a lot more pixel density to play with. You can digitally zoom in 4, 5, 6x without losing much resolution on the camera. It's plug and play, works with everything, it's future-proof. When we say it's future-proof, obviously with the high resolution that it provides you now compared to what others are available right now, we also have the capability to upgrade the firmware. So and it's field upgradable, right? So if tomorrow we bring new feature functionality, we bring a new form of stitching, we bring something added function to the camera, you can unlock those features by just upgrading the firmware of the camera. And it's very straightforward. You can just, through your laptop or PC, you just download the new firmware or Jabra Direct. You can upgrade the firmware on that and unlock those feature functionalities to that. So just because you bought the Jabra PanaCast today does not mean you're locked into that. It means any new upgrades that come in, you would be able to utilize those. This is Jabra PanaCast. What's in the box? It's a standard Jabra PanaCast. Comes with the intelligent zoom, PanaCast vivid HDR functionality enabled inside the camera. It has, camera has a 1 meter long USB-C to A cable and the camera itself. Now, in use case scenarios, there are two use case scenarios. One is people bring, you may have a camera as a room resource where the camera is connected to a room PC that is made available in the huddle room. The other use case is people bring their own laptop, want to walk into the huddle room space and want to connect that. So these days, the PC manufacturers have been putting the computers on a diet, so they're becoming smaller and smaller, thinner and thinner. So the ports on those computers are becoming less and less, right? It's USB 1, USB 1, HDMI, things like that. But if you walk into a conference room and then you're plugging in the HDMI, then you're plugging in the camera, then you're plugging in the external mic and speaker, then you have your USB stick. You get a lot of, you have a lot of cables to plug in, and you may or may not run out of ports. So what we have created is, for those kind of use case scenarios, we created a USB, we have created the Jabra PanaCast Hub. What that allows you to do is just one cable that comes to the center of the table that allows you to utilize all the room resources that are available. That means the monitor, the external mic and speaker, the camera, all of that through the Jabra Hub, Jabra PanaCast Hub. It has an HDMI, it has two USB 3.0 ports, it has an Ethernet connection. So as you know, for any UC conference, it's better to be on a wired network than on a wireless, because wireless network goes up and down as well, right? So once you have this hub connected and placed either behind the monitor with an Ethernet cable, once you connect your PC with that hub with this single cable, you also have a connected wired connection. So it is capable of providing all of those, it's capable of providing all of these room resources to you through a single cable. This is an interesting use case scenario, which is digital signage, which we had not we did not have that in mind, but it became a part of the Jabra PanaCast or the PanaCast solution as well. In digital signage, the most important thing is the cone of detection. Normally, people use that whenever you go to airports or when you go to retail malls or train stations, you see digital signage where they're playing the ad, advertisements playing. If you stand in front of that, know that there's a camera looking back at you, and then trying to determine your age, gender, how long did you stay in front of that digital signage, whether you were happy or sad or not happy, made fun of it, So that's the data that they're collecting to make sure how their advertisement is having an effect. So with the in the digital signage space, if you're using a 60-degree or 70-degree lens camera, smaller camera, then you're only capturing that much of data. When you're using Jabra PanaCast, it gives you 180-degree field of view. That means you've tripled the data that you're collecting. People who are standing on the sides can also be counted as the people in the cone of detection. From accessories point of view, the camera itself has a hinge which has a 1/4-20 thread. That means you can mount the camera with the hinge on top of any display monitor, or you can take any tripod, any tripod that is available, camera tripod that is available. You can mount that camera on that if you do not want to use the Jabra table stand. But other than the camera itself, there are a few accessories. The table stand is one, which is extendable table stand. As you can see in this one, you can raise the height and lower the height as well. And then there's a wall mount, which is cleverly designed. It has a slight edge on one side and straight on the other. We suggest and we recommend to place the Jabra PanaCast at an eye height level, 120 to 140 centimeters from the ground. That means when you're sitting down, it's an eye high level, and then that's the area of interest that it captures. But if you happen to install it a little higher, then you need to tilt it a little bit. So if you happen to install it a little higher, then you use this edge of that to tilt the camera a little bit. If you don't, and you want to mount the camera straight, you can flip this and mount the camera on this side, and keep it straight. Extender options. Obviously, sometimes the computer may be located a little farther than where the camera is placed. So we have USB 2.0 and USB 3.0 extenders. We verified both these 2.0 and 3.0 extenders because of the cost. USB 2.0 extenders are cheaper. 25-foot USB 2.0 cable would be about $25, whereas USB 3.0 active cables could be longer and more expensive cables as well. So we have that information. We can provide you that information. A little bit, just wrapping up in the interest of time, a little bit about the use case scenarios. So Uber is one of our biggest success. Uber has about 1,500 PanaCast cameras deployed globally. They standardized their new AV 2.0 standards based on PanaCast cameras. And what they've done is you see this is on PanaCast 2. What they've done is they've cleverly placed the PanaCast camera in between the two monitors. The reason why they did that is because when you sit down and if the camera is mounted too high, you're looking directly at the screen where you're interacting with people. And the people from the other side would be seeing you looking down at screen, not looking at them, right? So for them to have a very interactive experience, they place the camera. They have Heckler design this specific mount for PanaCast camera so that it can be mounted between the two screens. And now it gives a very clean look and a very interactive experience, immersive experience that you're looking directly at the people that you're communicating with. I talked about universities, University of Idaho, University of Arizona Medical School, many other universities. This is a very common configuration that we see these days to utilize your space more efficiently. Because whenever you place the camera, that whole space, you have to move the table. Nobody can sit on the front chair anyways, right? So this is, push the table all the way to the wall, have the camera, and have people sit around and utilize it efficiently. So a lot of universities are using that. Just quickly, one more use case was also a video wall scenario. One of my customers had a small window looking over the New York Central Park, but they did not have any window in their lobby. But they looked at the PanaCast camera and they said, we want to show the entire the Central Park in our lobby. And the way they did that was they placed the PanaCast camera in the window. They ran the cable and they created this 17-foot video wall. And they're running this live. So when you walk into their lobby, you get to see the Central Park through the eyes of PanaCast camera. And this just last slide on the room dynamics. We say the Jabra PanaCast is ideal for huddle room space. However, it is also can be utilized for large room or open spaces to get the room dynamics. So with the one single shot, you're able to see the entire 300 seating auditorium. Just one quick thing, and I think we will be able to wrap it. So this is this was interesting. That's just like how the video wall experience is through the eyes of PanaCast camera. I asked them to capture some video for me, and then they captured a time lapse of about 24 hours for their video wall. Yeah, you see the sun show up and all that. With that, that was my last slide. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, we will take questions later on, right? Thank you.